welcome to another Nola Wargaming Battle Report. I'm happy to see that you're here, because, I don't know, it seemed like I was just making these things for me for a while. Anyway, this game took place a few weeks ago. I actually got really sick shortly after I did this game, and couldn't do the battle report, hence the long delay between these things. Kind of got discouraged a little bit. So, this game took place between my friend, the Warrior Priest Piglet. This is his only evil army. Every one of his armies are very good, very strictly, morally right sort of armies. And then he just has this kind of oddball Beastmen army, which he really loves, and he's never really treated him all that well. So this game is actually not a game of Warhammer Fantasy. This is a game of the Ninth Age. So a little backstory in this. I'm sure you all know that GW has since discontinued Warhammer Fantasy, and they've moved on to their new game, Age of Sigmar, which I'm not going to go into. You can go troll the forums for that one. But I've got the website below. It's got a lot of their alpha and beta stuff on it if you want to check out some of the rules. I'll go through the rules as we go through the battle report, any changes and stuff. It's this particular one is for their alpha, so the only real changes are to the magical lores and to the Beastmen list itself, which is much better. A whole bunch of Beastmen players started taking their armies out as soon as we moved on to this. So let's move on to deployment. So as soon as you see this, you say, hey, Ogres. Never saw those before. Well, that's because they were awful before. Now the Beastmen army picks up the whole Forest Strider rule. Ogres work much more like like their equivalents in the Wood Elf book, the Wild Riders. They're still initiative 2, so it's still pretty slow. But they pick up the fast cav, at least half the fast cav rule. They can reform whenever they want. Also, they've got options for Cinegore lances, which are just normal lances, or great weapons. And really, they're strength 6. They can re-roll their missed hits. They're really a nasty flanking unit in the Beastmen army. The Dark Forest works just like the old Herdstone. You got to be within a few inches of it. And it grants plus D3 to cast instead of the extra dice that it generated before. So it works just like a Hero Titan. So, as you can see, units can be marked now. Marks are a little bit different than they were before. Mark of Nurgle is reroll 6s to hit. Mark of Khorne would be +1 strength. Mark of Slaanesh is armor piercing, and Mark of Tzeentch, I think, is just a 6+ ward that rerolls 1s. So my opponent wasn't quite sure what the marks were, so he just Mark of Nurgled everything. I'm really high on the Mark of Khorne. That +1 strength in the first turn, I think, is great, particularly if you combine that with the Beast Banner. I mean, you could have toughness 5, strength 5 gore in the first turn. So it's pretty impressed by that. Anyway, my opponent has the Beast Lord on the Pumbaa Chariot. I never remember that he does this. He does it almost every game, and I just never remember. I always think it's a normal chariot, and I just catapult right in there. So it's just kind of a standard build. He's got the Ogre Blade. He's got a 4+ ward. Nothing special. You can see the Cygor in the back. He's really the same as he was before, except he's much cheaper. All of the Beastmen rare are much cheaper. Not a lot of huge changes there. He's got 1 ambushing unit. It's actually, it's got a War Gore in there, because you can put characters in those units and ambush them, which I think is really nice. Because before, the things just kind of showed up, and they were just a few gore or whatnot, and just couldn't do anything. They also work like normal ambushers. No more of that nonsensical Beastmen ambush crap. Alright, and here's my army. Kind of looks, I think, similar. I think I played with this exact army a few weeks back. But this is also using the Ninth Age rules. Yetis are much cheaper in this version. It's not something I'm big on. I think they go from 44 points to, I think it's 35 points, maybe 39 points. The point reduction is great. They still really can't do the purpose. They can't fulfill the role they're meant to in the army because, well, they just panic so easily. You can't kick them off the flanks. They've got to stay near general. But otherwise, they're strength 5. As long as they don't run into something flaming, they're great. So they're strength 5. They teamed them up with a Thunder Tusk, so stuff strikes last against them. It makes their initiative 4 pretty worthless, but, whatever. but I wanted a real wintry theme in this army, so that's what I went with. All right, on the right side of the table, you can see the Iron Gut Star right there. A couple units of Noblar. I've got my Hunter. In this version, the Ogres can take a variety of big names. All the big names have been revamped. And this one grants Blood Greed, which is that every time they win combat, they get an extra attack. It's the Minotaur rule. It's really, really neat. I probably could make a much better build than I have, but I was really psyched to put it on the Hunter. And I just gave him a Sword of Might and a 2+ armor save, and I thought that would be pretty fun. So that's where he is. All right, so here's Magic. Magic is a little different before. The Magic phase itself is not all that different. If you're familiar with ETC rules, it's not all that different from ETC in some ways. A lot of the steps are clarified. You can only throw 5 dice instead of 6. That's probably the biggest change. There are a bunch of other changes, but mostly small. The lores themselves are different. The lore attributes are all very, very different. But here's the spells. Wisdom is the same as there was before. Flock of Doom is still the 2d6 strength 3. Ember Spear is still the strength 6 versus strength 10. D3 wounds, D6 wounds. Transformation of Kadon, I don't think we ever cast it this game. I might be wrong, but it works a lot more like Savage Beast of Horos. You pick a character and his stats go. You've got a choice between different aspects, and he could get +2 strength or +3 weapon skill, killing blow, stuff like that. Instead of him turning into the other beast and having to put a new base down and stuff, he just picks up a few extra stats, which I like a lot better than the other way. Curse of Honor here is the same, so this is the Magic. I wanted my opponent to go with the Lore of the Wild, but he decided to go with Lore of Beasts, which is exactly what I went with. So I went out a little further. Inner Rage is just Frenzy. I really wanted this because you can cast this on your opponent's units within 12 inches. I wish the range was a lot longer than that because I'm a big fan of Frenzy. Oh, I'm a big fan of my opponents having Frenzy. I take so much chaff in my army that I can just kind of put something in front. If they have to charge it, they hit it, and they run in the wrong direction. And my opponents have become very cautious when using their Frenzy units around me. So I wanted to try this out and see if I could get this to work. The other spells are the ones that I talked about before. The Lore of the Maw is very different. It's the base spell, for instance, is +1 toughness instead of the old Spine Marrow Stubborn, which frankly was horribly ineffective. The ranges are all increased as well. I think Trollgetch is still 12 inches, but most of the others are 18 to 24 inches. So you don't have to keep all of your units right next to your bunker. You can spread things out, which is much, much better. I'm still not big on the lore. I'll probably try it out a bit more, but it's something. Like I said before, I touched on the lore attributes. The lore attribute for beasts is you pick it's not one character, it's one model within 12 inches, and that model picks up +1 attack or +1 strength. If you cast a bunch of spells from beast, obviously you can stack this stuff and it turns out pretty well. Lore of the Maw is just your butcher gets wounds back, just like it was before, except he can go above his starting wounds. At least that's what it was for this alpha. I believe it's changed a little bit, but it works really well. All the lore attributes, you can find a use for them in every situation. It's not like before where you were using the Lore of Heavens and you said, oh, my opponent doesn't have any flyers. I guess my lore attribute will never be useful. No, all of these lore attributes will find a use at some point during your games. All right, let's move on. So here's the first turn. My opponent gets to go. He vanguards and then immediately hops Harpies all the way over here. I should have seen this coming. I really wasn't thinking about it. Otherwise, I would have had the bulls further back instead of towing the line like I had them right there. So I can't charge them, and my opponent knows this. It's a nice spot to be in. So the rest of his army just starts moving up. He's really cautious with that Cygor. He thinks that if he charges it in, it's just going to die. I tried to tell him that the stats aren't too bad on the thing, particularly if you run into a flank or something like that or any small monster. But he's determined just to use him as a stone thrower, so you'll see him throwing a lot of rocks this game. Here's the other side. I don't know why he didn't move his Synagores all the way up. I don't remember what he picked up. I think, oh, that's right. He picked up Always Strike First because he has great weapons and it cancels out the great weapon. Not that makes much of a difference because he's still just initiative 2. But if he gets a flank or something like that, I mean, he can really tear into to everything else. All right, so here's magic. First spell he casts is Flock of Doom. And I allocate them between the hunter and the dog, and he just kills that poor dog off. Which is a shame, because I liked getting Swift Stride with this Ogre Hunter. Fortunately, it doesn't panic anybody. The Ogre Hunter has Frenzy because of the Blood Greed, so not a lot happens. And here's my turn. And because I just can't help it, I just want this guy to get in combat so bad. I've never had anything that had Blood Greed. I've played against Minotaur armies before, and they start racking up those attacks, and it's so cool. I've always liked it. Even when I'm on the receiving end, I've always liked it. So I just declared this long charge. If I had the dog, I think I might have had a decent chance to make it. But I don't make it because I don't have the dog. It's a shame. It's what a difference that one dog makes. So the rest of my army just kind of starts creeping up. The Noblar start moving off to the side to hopefully entice the Senegor to do something. The bulls on the left just move back a little bit. Everything else just starts to crash on the center of the army. See, here we are. I'm going to try to isolate those Gores. I really like the combination of the Thunder Tusk and the Yetis. I'm not sure why, because it's probably not the best combination, but it seems like a lot of fun. It's that whole winter theme is great. If you haven't noticed, I've been working on the Thunder Tusk. He's about as far. He's still the same paint job that I had him at that point. Unfortunately, I need to work on him a bit more, but he's coming along. He looks really nice so far. Here's the right side. I'm just trying to force those Harpies away. All right, so my opponent lets me get off Cursor Honor here on the big unit. I just didn't want him to march, and that was it. So that's what the table looks like at the start of turn 2. So my opponent immediately charges one unit of Noblar. He actually tries to redirect into the second unit, but he fails to redirect because Harpies are leadership 5 or 6 or something like that. And that they just run across my entire army. They don't do anything. Noblar, nobody panics from Noblar. So he moves up, not a ton. He actually declared a charge with the Beast Lord, and he rolled like a 1, 1, and 2 or something like that. He rolled insanely low. He didn't need a ton to make it in, and he just couldn't do it. And there's his first ambush roll. Get used to this one. Poor Piglet, he just couldn't get these guys on. He always has horrible luck when he takes stuff like this. I really think it would have been great, but they just... wow. So there's the Harpies. They just kind of turn and move. So they're kind of stuck. The bulls are right behind them at this point. Here's the Senegors moving up and just looking at everything, getting into a position. I don't think Piglet's overly concerned with the bulls. He really shouldn't be. I can do a little bit of damage to the Senegors, but the Senegors are just going to eat the bulls alive. And here's the center of his army. Not quite. I guess he's moving his units away from the hunter after that kind of scare that when I charged towards him. He really didn't want me to get in there because I would have taken out his wizards at that point. Now, there's the stone thrower. It comes down, and poor Piglet, he rolls a 1. I think that's the to wound roll, not the number of wounds. So I don't think he did anything to him. So here's my turn. I declared a charge on the Harpies and drove the Harpies across my army, which is to be expected. And the Iron Guts charged into those Ungor that he put in my way just to slow me down. Oh, the Hunter actually made his charge. He just went full speed into the Beast Lord in that chariot. Like I said, I didn't remember that it was a Beast Lord on a chariot. I just thought it was a chariot. So, yep, I can take out chariots. He's good at that. Win a combat, overrun, be in the backfield, do all that stuff. The rest of my army is just getting in the way. And then there's the Harpies. I think I declared another charge once they popped across the army with one of the units of Noblar and drove them a little bit further. And my ambushers come on immediately. I rolled the 3+ for both, and I just put them up like that. He's going to have to put something in the way to get rid of him, to be able to hold one up. But the other one's probably going to get into the gore. I'm not sure how much I like that. The strength, he's going to get a lot of strength 4 attacks. He's going to get a lot of rerolls. They'll hold up for a turn or two, but eventually they're going to get dragged down by all those strength 4 rerolls. And here's the Inner Rage. I'm actually not sure why I did this. Did I do Inner Rage? Maybe I did another spell. No, I think that was it. I think I frenzied him, but he was already frenzied, so I don't know why I did that. So, way to go me. He's still got only 5 attacks. So I run in, my impact hits, did a number on the chariot, and then I managed to turn the rest of it to kindling. I had 5 attacks, and then, it's strength 6, even though I think it's a toughness 5 chariot. I just tore it to pieces. The Beast Lord, I see a 1 on him, but I don't think that's a wound. I think that might have been from the Flock of Doom, and he gave +1 attack to him. That's probably why I did the Inner Rage, so I could pick up another attack, so I must have had 6 attacks here. Nope, I wasn't within 12. Yeah, maybe I was. Something like that. Anyway, so I killed the chariot, and the Beast Lord only did 3 wounds to me. I say only because future. I do win combat by a couple, but he just hangs around, which does not suit well. My hunter's just going to die now. He's already taken 3 wounds. The Beast Lord strikes first. He's strength 7. He gets rerolls. The hunter is not long for this world. So it's turn 3. Aw, the poor bulls. They're gonna die. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be really bad. Ambush fail again. Because why not? And the rest of his army just kind of starts swinging around. He's trying to keep as much of the Iron Guts and the Yetis and all that stuff out of the way as possible. Obviously, he doesn't want that stuff to charge in all at once because it's going to make a mess of this gore. You see in the back, he's actually blocked off one of the Gorgers with his Pumbagore. And he's just going to try to direct him in another direction. Piglet's played against my Scrag army a few times, which has somewhere between 6 and 8 Gorgers, depending on which incarnation you play. And he's used to this. And he likes all this infantry, and the Gorgers just eat infantry. So he's got an unnatural fear of those poor guys. All right. I'm not entirely sure what this slide is telling me. Something happened. That's movement. I guess it's just showing the rest of the movement. The dogs move backwards or something. Oh no, the shamans move forward. So actually, he does get a transformation of Kadon. He probably does one that just does a couple of extra attacks to him. I don't think it was anything special. Yeah, he does one that's +2 attacks and regeneration, just so he can pick up the extra attacks, and he gives himself another attack as a result from the lore attribute. So this Beast Lord went from 4 attacks to 7 attacks. It's not a good day. Yep, as I said, those bulls were just murdered. I was lucky to get a couple of attacks back. I think I only had one guy on like a wound or something like that. Actually, no, I would have had all 3 because we would have gone simultaneously, both being initiative 2. And that was the best I could do, which not too surprising. Yep, there's the hunter. He's dead. Poor guy. At some point, I'm gonna get this to work. It's too cool not to get to work at some point. All right, so it's my turn. Obviously the Gorger is going to charge the rear of the Gores over there. The other Gorger is going to charge the Pumbagore. I'm not going to win this. I'm going to win this combat, but providing it's the toughness 5, they're really even stat wise. So if he holds, I mean, he could kill that Gorger off in a couple turns. I also charged a dog over there, but that's only because I wanted to get him out of the way. It does give him a stomp if he's still alive, which isn't great. So I mean, it gives him like an extra attack. But like I said, I wanted him out of the way so I could get the Yetis in. Go Yetis! So I charged everything here. I wanted the Yetis in the Gore. Hopefully, I've got these Yetis going in the other Ungore. I'm hoping that I can get them to slam into the Gore afterwards. Or slam into the Pumbagore and then slam into the Gore. The Thunder Tusk is still back there. He didn't have an opportunity to charge. The Iron Guts are going into that one Beast Lord over there because, it's just one Beast Lord on foot. No reason I can't take that out. I know he's got transformation on him and everything, but, I've got guys with ward saves and stuff. So we make it all over the place. I mean, I've got a bunch of impact hits, and I think I can take this guy. Oh, it's Ogre Magic. That's got to be the Frenzy one, because it's the only one that I don't have a actual card for. So it's Inner Fury or Inner Rage or whatever. So this is combat. I throw out my BSB, and this guy's pretty standard. I mean, I give him a 4+ ward save, a great weapon. He's got an extra attack on him from the Inner Fury. He's also got the extra attack from the lore attribute. So he's got +2 attacks right now. So he's at 6 attacks. I don't get to use him. That Beast Lord comes in with his I think I said 7 attacks, and just wipes the BSB out in one go. I think he does 7 wounds with all of those attacks. I mean, he needs 3s and 2s, rerolling the 3s, and I don't pass enough ward saves, and so I don't even get to attack. So he picks up a bunch of combat res. I think he loses by 1, but he sticks. Over here, my opponent is less lucky. The Gorger does a bunch of wounds to the Pumbagore. He does kill the dog right out, but he can only do 2 wounds there. I have 2 wounds and a charge, and so he breaks and runs. And then runs into the building and dies. Because, yep, I love it when stuff runs into a building or runs through dangerous terrain and just dies. It's always funny. Alright, so finally... Finally, the ambushes arrive. We actually did this a little late, or we don't do it until after I take all the pictures, and he puts them back on the field. But he does arrive this turn, turn 4. He charges the Synagores into those Noblar down there. I think I could have fled, but I was just going to hold and let him run into the next one and hold there a couple of turns. I don't think I wanted him to get near the Iron Guts, and I was afraid that if I fled with the first one, he could redirect. So, here's our... What happened? Turn 4 Beastmen combat. Oh, I guess I must have missed the Yetis in their previous combat. They won combat. And here, they're just going to win again. And as you can see, the other Yetis killed the Ungors and overran into the Pumbagore. Sorry about that. And here's my turn, and I just swung around. Oh, the Pumbagore actually stayed in combat. I had all these attacks on him, and I think I whiffed with all of them, or I did like 1 wound or something, and he just held. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going to kill the Pumbaa right out, but I did not. I did nothing. But over here, like I said, the Thunder Tusk moved off to the side. He couldn't charge because there was no way to get in, and the Gorger just moved around because he couldn't see anything. I was really worried that the Synagore was going to charge in the Thunder Tusk, but I've got 6 strength 4 attacks, 4 strength 6 attacks. I can do some damage, maybe negate that +2 from charge and flank. Anyway, these guys are fleeing. I don't know why, or no, they're not fleeing. They just kind of moved over here. I guess to possibly annoy the Synagores. Maybe I'll be able to use them to threat the Shamans later on. So, yeah, more Inner Rage. See if it actually helps us at some point. Yep, here's these guys. Like I said, they destroyed the Noblar and ran into here. And, yeah, that's just not going to go well. Finally, the guy falls. I think he does like 4 wounds to my Slaughtermaster or something. But I accidentally kill him. I don't know how. I just lucked out. I had a whole bunch of attacks. I did a wound to him, and then I kicked him, and it's this little strength 4 kick that just happened to do a wound. And he took his armor, took his ward. I mean, I did a bunch of wounds to this guy, and he just kept saving everything. And then he just fails this little strength 4 kick to the face and dies. So things have been going okay over here. The Gorger's nearly dead. The Yetis are nearly dead. But I'm winning combat. And, next turn is my opponent's turn. But after that, it's going to be Yetis and Thunder Tusk time. And there's that Noblar. He just got murdered. So here's turn 5. And there go the Gore. Like I said, they came in last turn. I didn't have a picture because we put them on between turns. He decides to send those Cinegore. I think he tried to charge the Bulls, but he failed the charge. It wasn't a far charge, but he just rolled really, really low. The Gores decide they're just going to charge the Bulls in the front. I think I'm going to win this combat. I mean, I still got the shield walls and stuff. I don't think the shield walls, the character walls, are long for this world in the 9th Age. I've never been a big fan of them. Every time I try to teach this game to new players, they never like it. I always feel kind of cheesy doing it, but honestly, it's in the current way that the game works, it's really the only way to make ogre units not squishy and dead. So, yeah, I think I can repulse this Gore unit without too much of a problem. He does manage to get Wizen's on him, which makes him Strength 4 and Toughness 5, which is not great, but, you know, I can survive this. The poor Thunder Tusk. Yep, the Cinegore's rock finally did something. Like I said, he didn't want to charge him in, so he just kind of held back, and he just threw rocks at the big fatty. And finally a rock fell on him, and it did 6 wounds, and he died. Did not expect that to happen. So the Gore take off running, just like I said. I don't pursue them. I'm not entirely sure why. Immediately after I made this decision, I knew it was just a stupid decision. We were actually running out of time, so I really don't know why I didn't. I kind of rectify it in a second. Yeah, see, I just declare a charge and drive them off the table, so I'm not sure why I did this to begin with. I chose not to pursue, kept the same facing, and then charged in the next turn. Maybe I thought that I was going to be able to get something else in line of sight, but it wasn't going to make any difference because he was just going to flee off and everything. So here's the rest of the movements. I charged the Yetis in. I charged that Gorger into the end of that Gore unit over there. The Bull unit is just waving at the Cinegores. So there we go. It's hanging out, doing some damage. And it's dead. I didn't do a ton of damage to it, but it did not live. I did enough to break it. The Gorger died in the process, but, you know, such is the way of things. It was great when the Thunder Tusk was there, giving the Always Strike last to the unit. But as soon as that was gone, they struck the Gorger first, and he was just gone. I mean, I think that was an untouched Gorger, but, you know, it's just not long for this world against that stuff. So, what happened in turn 6? Well, it was my fault. I was being slow, and I needed to get out of there because my wife was meeting me at the movie theater so that we could go see the Fantastic Four movie, which, by the way, just as awful as advertised. Really bad. So, we really just kind of mathed it out quickly before I took off. He was going to pick up that unit of Bulls. I really wasn't going to pick up anything on my turn, and if you look at it, my opponent thinks that I won this game. We didn't do the math on it. I'm not so sure. I mean, he's got that unit of Cinegores there. I really just have that yet. He's got the Cinegores. He's got the Cygor. He's got 2 of his wizards. He's got the level 4 and the level 1. I mean, none of that stuff is cheap. And really all I've got is the Yetis and a couple of characters in the Iron Guts. So not a lot left on either side of the table. It's a pretty bloody battle, which, you know, are generally the best games. So that's all I've got for you. Thank you guys for coming out and watching this. And I should have another one up within a few more days. I've already got everything written out. All I just need to do is the narrations and then upload it. Because like I said before, this one was a lot slower because of me getting sick. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you later.